If only everyone could see me running around like a Scootaloo with its head chopped off here as I try to set up. So, hey everyone, welcome to Equine Episode Examination. Let's get the chat up here on screen. Thank you so much for waiting. Trying something a little new today. We're broadcasting to our YouTube channel where we're going to be starting to put all of our Equine Episode Examinations up. We have last week's up, and we have Magical Mystery Cure up right now. So we'll be trying to keep those up to date there, and so we're going to try a little experiment this week as we start the second half of Season 6 here. And we're going to try to get streaming right to YouTube, because YouTube will nicely auto-archive the stream for us, and that saves a lot of steps in terms of trying to get it up on YouTube. So we're going to try and do that here. Oh, and I just forgot one thing. So, give me 1 second, and if everyone else wants to introduce themselves on the stream, and then we'll get started.
Don't be a dick! Now that we got that out of the way, I'm Mr. Ben.
I'm Jay Smith.
Said my little catchphrase at the beginning of the show. I usually wait to the end. Doing something a little new this week. I mean, after all, we are streaming to our YouTube channel, so what the hell?
Okay, there we go. So, yeah, I just had to juggle with getting that set up and trying to jump through the hoops to set up a live broadcast on YouTube. And then, you know, the normal technical hiccups and stuff. But we got plenty of time to talk tonight. So, welcome to our first episode of the second half of Season 6, where we're going to be talking about Stranger Than Fan Fiction. So if this is your first time joining us for Triple E, we're back to new episodes now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to discuss this past Saturday's episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And I'm just going to kind of give our opinions on it. Our initial thoughts on it, being it's only been a couple days since it premiered here, and just kind of allow everyone here, both in the voice chat here and in chat on the stream here, to kind of, you know, give our opinions on the episode and maybe bounce some ideas off of each other. So we're all having one nice little discussion about the episode with a lot of people, hopefully with some differing opinions and stuff on the episode as well. So yeah, like I said, hopefully there's not too much of a delay on YouTube here versus we normally use Stream Up. So hopefully the delay isn't too bad, and hopefully it holds together. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do today on Triple E. So we split everything up. If you're new, we split everything up into different kind of categories here that allow us to keep the discussion somewhat organized. And so we're just going to go ahead and we start off with our initial thoughts. So what's everyone's initial thoughts on Stranger Than Fan Fiction?
Well, I was going to let J.E. actually go first this time, but seeing as how I don't know if he's still having some mic problems or not.
This was a very well done app with all the meta references to fandoms, and that one guy who always acknowledges, there are any more entries in the series after this and all that.
This is actually one of my strong contenders for a possible favorite episode of Season 6. Simply just for the sheer concept of it. Like J.E. said, just the meta references, the whole poking fun at the idea of, okay, this part of a show is, you know, better than anything that came after that, or even just the fact that just fandom rivalry in general is just something that they took it and they just pulled it off with aplomb, really.
I really enjoyed this episode. It was a really enjoyable one, and a lot of humor in it, and Patton Oswalt in it was great as Quibble, and yeah, it's interesting to get kind of its take on fandoms and and kind of these mini dramas that can go on in fandoms. And no, not just MLP. This happens in every fandom. And I like the way they handled it too, and we'll get more into that as we get into the story and characters. But just overall, I like the way they handled it. It wasn't some harsh, bashing of people who complain about shows or quibble. It was kind of showing both sides of the coin here between Quibble and Rainbow Dash, and the problems that both of their kind of fandom mindsets can have, and how it's important to work out differences and just enjoy being friends, or enjoy whatever you like about the show. And it kind of brought light to how different people can enjoy things in different ways as well. And I think just overall, just and the initial thoughts here, I think it handled the topic at hand really well. So let's go ahead and we'll dive in here to if I can get there we go. So what does everyone think about the story? We'll start the discussion here with the story. There it is, with the story and the writing of the episode. This episode was written by both Josh Haber, who of course is the story editor for season 6, and the third episode this season so far, written by Mike Vogel, who of course was the previously one of the Hasbro execs that was also worked on the show executive wise, who has retired from that and has started writing for the show as of this season. So this is his third episode of the season. Of course, he wrote the musical episode Heartwarming Tale, and what was the other one he wrote? It was more recent. Was it the last episode? Was it the I forget what episode was the other one that he wrote. I knew it was one of the kind of two recent ones. I can't remember if it was the last episode we saw before the hiatus or not. I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't know off the top of my head either. Give me one moment.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he wrote the previous episode of the season as well. Yeah, Spice Up Your Life. Yeah, I was pretty sure he did that. So this is kind of the second episode in a row this season that he's written there, along with Haber. So, what does everyone think about the story of the episode?
Could you repeat that? I had to step away from the computer for a second.
Sure. I was just kind of saying, what does everyone think about the story in the writing of the episode?
Oh, is actually rather well done, really, to be honest, in my opinion anyway. I really loved how it was written. It's always nice to see Daring Do again, but just the fact that they decided to take things in a bit of a different direction and incorporate meta elements was actually something kind of surprising, and kind of took me off guard, and just couldn't help but really enjoy what they did.
And of course, this is the kind of the second episode that's like that, being that the last episode, Spice Up Your Life, which you also wrote, was also kind of another kind of little play on like more like reviewers and kind of stuck up reviewers and stuff like that.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So this kind of takes a different level, going away from like more the reviewers and more like kind of fan and opinion.
Kind of interesting, considering that Spice Up Your Life was the last episode we saw before the hiatus, and
yeah, exactly.
And Mike Vogel happened to have a part in writing that one, and then the next episode we see right after the hiatus is one that he also had a hand in writing. Very amusing.
Yeah. I definitely, with this episode, I definitely liked the return of Daring Do, of course. Great seeing more of her and having it kind of being in a slightly different, different context than we've seen before. Of course, it just hilarious, the whole hilarious thing, with this being a Daring Do convention, and just all of the different nods they were able to put into that. I think right off the bat, one of the things I liked again is just kind of plugging some plot holes that Haber and Vogel do right at the beginning of the episode. Because of course this whole thing is about Daring Do and a Daring Do fan convention, and Rainbow Dash going to that. And of course, there's one major plot hole with that, and that, of course, is there's another main six that might have as big of a, as big of a like of Daring Do as Rainbow Dash, and that's, of course, Twilight. And so right at the beginning, right at the setup for the episode, the cold open, they get her out of the story right away with her, helping Rainbow Dash pack and saying that how she has a friendship summit or whatever in Yakistan. So it was nice because, first off, that's what cold open should do. They kind of set up the story and kind of get important things, information like that out of the way. And I like how they immediately got her out of the way and did it with a reasoning that uses the continuity rather than just some out of the blue reason. So she has to do a friendship summit in Yakistan, which of course relates back to the Yak episode last season. So and also relates to kind of her job as princess and whatnot. So I think it was a nice way of getting her out of the picture. And just being able to just focus this episode on Rainbow Dash herself. So I did appreciate that little kind of plug in a plot hole there. Oh, was it Griffinstone? I thought it was Yakistan. I don't know. It was whatever. It was same deal, different place.
It was still a callback.
Yeah.
It was Griffinstone because I remember.
But what?
You had to go with Griffinstone.
But I guess that's a kind of cool little continuity advancement as well. If there's some sort of friendship summit in Griffinstone, and we all know how Griffinstone was like the last time we saw it. So if they're having a friendship summit there, that's kind of like some behind the scenes progress there going on.
I kind of hope we actually get to see an episode dealing with that particular issue later on.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. Oh. Hey, Twilight had a lot of seasons in the spotlight, so. But we've still had a healthy dose of Twilight. It's either Twilight centered or Twilight plays a bigger part this season as well. So. I really just I did like kind of like this the problem that the characters faced in this on this episode, just a really nice accurate portrayal of kind of fan quibbles and fan disagreements, with the classic the classic fan argument of there are no other other books, or they're the first 3 movies of Star Wars, they don't exist, or
say Star Wars fandom, anyone?
Or Equestria Girls, it doesn't exist, or nothing existed after season 2 of MLP. So
Gen 1ers of Pokemon.
I will say I did like Gen 1 better just because it's way too many Pokemon to remember now. Oh my god. But like I said, I think one of my in the introduction, I think one of my favorite things about this is how it handled the whole situation, because it could have very easily become an episode where Quibble is wrong and he's so negative about the fandom and he's wrong and we got to prove that he's wrong. They didn't go that route. They made both Dash and Quibble both kind of be in the wrong and both have issues, and showed the darker side of both Quibble's view of the Daring Do fandom and Dash's view, because Dash is still shown in the episode to just be way too fangirly, to the point where, just like in the previous Daring Do episode, she's still putting Daring Do up on this perfect person pedestal, and acknowledge all of her books as perfect works and they don't have any flaws, and just fails to understand how someone could dislike Daring Do, no matter how valid or invalid Quibble's reasons could be. And I just really like that. I really like that they didn't just make this Dash is right, the episode, and have her trying to prove to Quibble why he's wrong and Daring Do is the best piece of fiction ever. And in the end, the episode ends with them, Quibble not changing his mind. I really like that he didn't change his mind. He just developed a better understanding of what his opinion was and why he liked the old Daring Do versus the new Daring Do, and could actually articulate and explain that. and could understand why Rainbow Dash and him have different opinions and like different parts of the Daring Do differently, and is able to accept that and work past it, and and realize that, hey, they can still be friends even though they have differing opinions on it. And I guess that's just my favorite part of the episode, just how they handled that situation, and didn't make this just some anti, negative fan episode. It was just a genuine episode about how people can view media and have different opinions on things, and how that's okay as long as you understand what your opinions are and why you have those opinions. Yeah, I mean, and neither of them really changed their opinions in the end. It was just they developed a better understanding of each of them, with Quibble being more attuned to the puzzle elements that were more involved in the earlier seasons, and while Rainbow Dash likes more of the action that the later books had.
Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there are people... how can I put this? There's no wrong way to light something. How I've always put it.
I also really enjoyed it. Shifting gears here on the story, how this episode...
Zoe seemed to have lost Ben there.
Yeah, I had a reset. For some reason, you guys cut out completely, and I couldn't hear anything. So I'm like, okay, time to reset.
Oh, I wasn't talking, so it might have just been everyone was silent.
I don't know, but I wasn't going to take any chances.
I think one of the shifting gears, one of the other things I really liked about the episode and its story is just how it played up even more so than past Daring Do episodes. All of kind of the action and adventure tropes, and of course having Quibble kind of call out each of them, and as people always do with those things, like, oh, there's a trope that that's a trope. Oh, you guys, how he always called out Caballera as going the school of bad accents and stuff like that. I really like how this episode really played with the tropes and allowed Quibble to play with them as well. So my chat wasn't scrolling, so there was more comments.
Whoops.
We go. This story also did a good job of kind of setting up what the kind of the lesson in the finale was in terms of Rainbow Dash and Quibble's differences. Throughout the episode, we see Quibble being much more interested in the puzzles. So when they first meet at the floor puzzle with when he first meets Rainbow Dash there, then later he solves the key puzzle and then helps Daring Do solve that kind of final door puzzle as well. And so that plays in exactly what he was saying at the end in terms of he was a lot more interested in the puzzles and problem solving of the original trilogy versus the action of the newer ones. So it was a nice little setup throughout the episode of him being a lot more adept to the more cranial aspects of the early Daring Do books. I did like they did have a little fun with Quibble's character though, in terms of making him just really one of those really outspoken fans like you see a lot in the Pony fandom, but also like the Star Wars, like we mentioned the Star Wars fandom earlier, and just how there's a lot of people in these fandoms that are just very outspoken in their opinions and get upset when their opinions aren't satisfied. So like I like the little drop of when they cut back to him and Rainbow Dash walking away, and he's saying something like along the lines of, and that's everything wrong with such and such book in the Daring Do series. Everyone's still on the call? Okay, you're there. Yeah, I hear you now.
All right, cool.
Yes.
Just hadn't heard everyone talking. I want to make sure.
Wow.
But
I was like looking at the chat room because like Tim mentioned something like, wait a minute. I mean, I know action puzzle solving is a thing, but I'm like, I just didn't know someone actually did like unscramble a Rubik's Cube while swinging over a rope from a rope over a lava pit. I still want to see that myself, mind you. Big spike walls of doom, yeah. I understand that, yeah. Still can't believe that fucking Tetris is getting a sequel, or not a sequel, but a movie adaptation. Tetris, of all things.
It's going to be a trilogy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. A trilogy.
Because there's so much story to tell.
I'm sorry for the language. It's just that is just something that is so surprising to me. Tetris is getting a movie adaptation.
Be funny if it is action puzzle solving.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Quibble just takes the entire episode just thinking that Rainbow Dash is just doing everything in her power to prove that what Daring Do did was possible by taking him on this adventurecation. And just taking that whole time, just thinking all this was fake, and it's like I loved all that humor between him and like Caballeron, trying to call him out for being a bad villain with predictable plots, and Caballeron's like, I didn't think my plan's that bad.
Also, that was a nice setup up at the beginning thing where Rainbow Dash first learns about the Daring Do adventure experience at the con.
Yeah.
How they use as a device later to make it look like Quibble still thinks everything is fake when they get captured by Caballeron.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said earlier, really the only thing I have in my notes here about the story is just the ending and kind of the resolution and lesson of it. With Quibble not changing his opinion, it's not like they could have gone the route easily where Rainbow Dash proved that all this was possible, and Quibble's like, oh, that's all possible. Well, now everything's hunky dory. I like all the new books. But no, I mean, in the end, he still, he kept his opinion on the book. He still said, he still liked the original 3 a lot more. And he just had a better understanding of what his opinions are and how they differ from Rainbow's, and then he's able to accept that and get Rainbow to accept that and say that, hey, even though we have these disagreements, I still think you're pretty awesome, and really enjoy, we still both really enjoy Daring Do, even if it's for different reasons, we still enjoy the same thing and can get along and relate to that, and can still be friends even with differing opinions. And even just outside of the whole fandom concept of the episode, that's just a really good life lesson about how you are going to encounter people that have differing opinions from you, and you might very strongly disagree with those opinions, but that doesn't mean that you can't get along with said people, that you can't even be friends with said people. It just means you have to learn and work to understand each other's opinion and accept the differences that you both have, instead of just yelling at each other, arguing. And I think that's a very good just life thing that I wish more people could follow and understand, because I think that's something that's very important to learn just in a life setting.
And haven't spoke with him recently, but like I said, I've told this story so many times, and I'm not really going to tell it again, but you all should know what I'm referencing.
I think I do.
Issues again.
I can hear you okay.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was in while we were actually watching the episode. It's like Mr. Bed and his friend.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tim there as well. They had that whole con thing, but the whole episode wasn't a con. They switched it up where they get kidnapped and go into like the more classic daring do action adventure trope setting during the second half, which made it so the whole convention setting and jokes and whatnot didn't kind of outweigh their welcome. You know, they're able to shift to a different setting, which allowed, of course, allowed Quibble to be, a little bit more like trope savvy in terms of what was actually happening in the second half of the episode.
I was actually kind of surprised that, because I would have thought that Quibble would have actually been clued into the fact that, hey, this is real, that after he was nearly done for on the rope bridge, that he would have thought, okay, well, maybe there's actually something to this, that this actually isn't an adventurecation. But no, he was still, actually thoroughly blind up until they actually had that alligator creature. What was it called?
I forget the name.
I have it. I just don't think I can pronounce it. It's
the demonic gummy. Just kidding.
I don't know. I'll type it out in the chat room.
The C3PO.
Sepactally, I think it's pronounced, but I don't know. I could totally be butchering that.
Gummy's grumpy uncle. I like that. I did like how even after he knows this is real and Daring Do shows up, he's still very critical of the entire situation. Even just like just being even critical of Daring Do as she's trying to solve the puzzles and whatnot. So. And of course, even Quibble gets becomes very fanboyish of Daring Do, or of Rainbow Dash during that whole bridge scene. Yeah, that's one thing I was going to point it out in the animation is when he starts like after the whole bridge scene and Rainbow Dash rescues him and whatnot, and they get back and Caballero and capture them again, and he starts accusing them of not being the official Adventurecation but some cheap knockoff, and Caballero just opens his mouth and looks back at Rainbow Dash like, is this guy serious? It was just like the best expression there.
I find it interesting that they actually took pains to like tie Rainbow Dash down like rather significantly, and all they did was they just slipped a collar over Quibble pants.
Yeah.
And he was able to like slip out of that like almost effortlessly.
Well, he was able to slip out of the lock one too, with that combination lock.
Yeah. But it's like they just happen to notice there's like, oh shit, she's dangerous, get her down, and then they just dismiss Quibble as like a threat at all. Oh,
So, anything else?
Rainbow
for
Dash is. Rainbow Dash has got like the best faces in this entire.
We'll get there when we get there.
I know. I just had to mention it.
So, anything else for story and the writing discussion of this?
Can't really think of much of else.
So we can move on to the character discussion. So let's talk about the characters and the characterization. We can start out with probably with Quibble Pants here.
Patton Oswalt actually does a really good voice for Quibble here, especially that credit sequence right there being completely improvised. I would have not have thought that was actually improvised until it was pointed out that that he did that.
I kind of in relation to what I mentioned in the story one, I really liked how this episode sort of pitted the two kind of different kind of extreme ends of fans in a fandom that, you know, have their own negative aspects to them, with kind of like the cynical with Quibble kind of being like the cynical reviewer or over analyzer or headcanon person that, you know, always, you know, really wanted kind of what they want and always had these really was very outspoken in their opinions, versus Rainbow Dash, who represents kind of like just the rabid fanboy fans who think the work can do no wrong and will you know, mouth foam over anything in the fandom and don't respond to criticism of what they like well. With Rainbow Dash just really going, you know, as soon as Quibble responds with how he didn't, you know, think any work existed after the first three, you know, Rainbow Dash, you know, responds really negatively to that and just doesn't want to accept any sort of criticism of Daring Do, whether or not that criticism is valid. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't, for this story, you can't, they said that they pretty much wrote this role right directly for him, and yeah, you can't get much more on the nose to Patton Oswalt than that character.
I'm going to say, not only did they create the character to be very similar to him, respectively, but just the fact that he carried himself, even like during the puzzle solving scene where he was like right there with Daring and RD, just him like coughing and sort of unsubtly stating that, no, that's wrong. And like Daring is like, oh, well, smarty pants, how would you solve this? And then he goes on to point out the blatantly obvious.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Quibble's also kind of the fan that is always very vocal about how this used to be really good and now it's not, and how everything used to be better, and, you know, and was very, very vocal about what they think that the Daring Do book should do, and how things should play out, and what he thinks, rather than, you know, actually kind of talking about what actually did happen. Yeah, it's always funny how they manage to get these, you know, more famous, you know, people on the show here, and of course if you don't know that kind of like the history, Patton Oswalt was, you know, a fan of MLP, and he watches the show with his daughter, so that's kind of how he is familiar with the show.
Well, not only that, but Oswald's involvement also came out of Big Jim Miller tossing him a direct message on Twitter out of the blue after Oswald mentioned watching the show with his daughter and was impressed with the show back in September 2014. From there, they worked out agreements and developed the plot for this episode specifically to fit his character into. And Oswald's dialogue was recorded separately from the rest of the principal cast in a Los Angeles studio sometime in May 2015.
Although he did record it with Ashley Ball. It was just not in the same studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Tim is saying there. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I think like Weird Al's use in MLP was like the perfect kind of use for him, or a character, for a guest or a celebrity guest star. It wasn't just him playing Weird Al. It wasn't something stupid like Teen Titans Go, or it wasn't something like Adventure Time where he voiced a character, but the whole kind of thing was just him voicing a character, and then they can advertise, hey, Weird Al voiced a character. Here they pretty much made a character for him that was more or less him in terms of personality, and just allowed him to play kind of play himself and be very over the top with Cheese Sandwich, and write that whole episode in a really good way that also fit in with the season arc and fit in with Pinkie Pie and giving her some character development and whatnot. And I think it's the best thing. It wasn't just like, hey, we got Weird Al, let's throw him to episode. They really kind of crafted that whole character and episode, for him, and didn't just throw him into a character role to voice. I think, Wander Over Yonder. It's so funny, all these shows all of a sudden got Weird Al as a guest voice actor. But Wander and Gravity Falls also used him, I think, very well. I think they both kind of did a similar thing. I still think Pony used him the best, just in terms of his skill set and writing that character for him and being pretty much him. But I did like his use in Gravity Falls as that wizard, and of course in Wander Over Yonder as that random villain, which it was a little like one of those shows like it's kind of, let's just throw him in here into a random character. But I think the comedy was pulled off very well in that, though. It's funny with Patton Oswalt, he's a celebrity voice, but it's not like even like with Weird Al or anything where they didn't really advertise it as an episode. It's like with all those Simpsons episodes or Family Guy episodes or other episodes where there was like, oh, next week, special guest star, such and such, and they make that the whole point of the episode. And of course that guest star has like one line and one scene of the episode.
Even with MLP, they didn't make him. I mean, maybe on the ads, they didn't even announce they didn't vocally announce it was Weird Al. They just said Pinky, who is this pony? And they showed an image of Cheese, and they just pointed Weird Al's name on him, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean they did. I mean, in the advertisements, they did say for Weird Al's guest appearance, they did advertise him as being in the episode. But like for this episode, they didn't even advertise. Outside some things on Twitter, it's not like they didn't have any in the commercial previews for this episode. They didn't say, hey, it's Patton Oswalt.
No, that's actually, I think, one of what I like when they do that is just when the celebrity voice actor is a surprise celebrity voice actor. That they don't even bother putting pointing out to them at all, and they just have them show up on the show, or have her show up on the show.
Oh God. he can voice act Bulk Biceps' brother. But I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about things like this, where, you know, like I said, they based the whole character on Patton Oswalt and wrote the episode and the character directly for him, and made him be a major involvement in the episode rather than just some random celebrity showing up, just like they did with the Lena Hall episode or the Weird Al episode, and how the voice actor really was, you know, liked the show and was into the show, and isn't just appearing here just to get a check and blah blah blah. I mean, he was obviously very willing to do this when you know, Big Jim reached out and they were able to work all that out to have him actually do it. So, you know, it's something that he you know, well, obviously wanted to do and look forward to doing. Just like Lena Hall was really into her part and really, you know, was really, you know, enjoyed the show with her kid and was really looking forward to that. And it wasn't just she was doing it just to do it or anything. She really did want to do something like that. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna get a celebrity, hopefully they can at least act, or if you're, for a cartoon, they can voice act.
Yeah, just because they can act doesn't mean they can voice act, and that is.
Yeah. Weird Al definitely showed that he could. I think singers have a better aptitude towards, you know, voice acting as well, just because of the nature of the acting. So anything else with Quibble in terms of character discussion? Kind of got on a little side chat there, which is fine. But anything else with Quibble as a character that we want to discuss? How about Rainbow Dash in this? Of course, the other major character here with Rainbow Dash being in the episode. Was everyone have to think about her characterization in this episode?
Let's say Rainbow Dash is pretty much the typical fan, but I wouldn't really say typical fan so much as I should say probably the typical major fan, if that makes any sense. The person
like
who
a fanboy or a fangirl.
Yeah.
In the actual definition of the word, not the definition that gets thrown around to anyone that, you know, towards anyone that someone disagrees with. Yeah, I mean, of course, this isn't, like Tim said, this isn't out of left field for Rainbow Dash's character. We already saw her in the last episode totally fangirling over Daring Do to the point where she's having trouble even being around her. I will say that it's a nice little bit of character progression here, even though she's obviously still a rabbit fan of Daring Do. She's actually able to be around her and kind of actually be helpful for this situation, unlike the previous Daring Do episode where she really had trouble putting aside her, you know, her you know, gosh, what's the word I'm for? Her overall fandom nature of Daring Do and accepting she's real, and she just couldn't stop like fangasming over over her in the previous episode. But here she's able to really actually work with her more as a peer as well, which was a nice little bit of progress, while still being a rabid fan. I don't know. Twilight might disagree with you there. She was the OG Rabbit Daring Do fan. Yeah, and of course the whole thing with Rainbow Dash actually going and trying to find A.K. Yearling Daring Do there at the convention to try and, like, oh yeah, this is an emergency. A fan doesn't like all of your work, and you got to go prove him wrong. And it's just going out of her way to trying to prove someone who disagreed with her wrong.
And I love how Daring misses it too. It's like, wait a minute, that's not even a real emergency.
Yeah, I've got bigger problems on my hooves than dissatisfied fan ponies. Okay.
I hear Tim around.
1 second, I'll be back.
Might as well.
Okay. Soon that finger will not be there. Yeah, breaking a superhero's secret identity just to prove that you're more right as their fan. Yeah, more in the right as their fan. Pretty much. But, even in the end, Rainbow Dash, after listening to kind of Quibble's points at the end, was able to kind of put aside her differences and kind of grow as a character to still be friends with someone who she disagreed with. And I think Rainbow Dash is that this kind of episode. I mean, besides the fact that obviously this is a Daring Do episode, I think it still makes Rainbow Dash kind of like the best fit for the character here in terms of someone who I can really picture having trouble with dealing with someone who has a different opinion of her, and especially of one of her idols. Can't tell if Everlasting Joy has seriously not heard of it or is just being a quibble.
I think he's just being a quibble.
Oh, that's going to be something in the fandom now. Anything with Daring Do in terms of character discussion? We saw a little bit of her here. I did like how kind of some of her sarcastic comments, especially revolving around Quibble when he starts questioning her to her face and stuff. Turning over to Rainbow Dash, she's like, "Is he always like this?" So any other character discussion that anyone has before we move on here to the next section? We've already kind of talked about the next section here. The next section being voice acting, and we've already kind of gone into a lengthy discussion on that, so we don't really have to add much more, unless anyone else has anything else they wanted to add to the voice acting part here. I think just, being that the role was pretty much written for him. I mean, Patton Oswalt just nailed Quibble in terms of the characterization that he gave him with his, he has the right voice for this very sarcastic, opinionated person. He just really has that nasally kind of right voice for that character that really fit him to a T. I was really pleased with how the whole package kind of turned out in the end with his voice acting as Quibble. Kind of going through some of the chat here. Still on a little bit of character discussion. Tim's just talking about how Daring Do herself is kind of a little bit of different sides of her character and has grown as a character here in this episode. Yeah, she's very much focused on the bigger threats to treasures and stuff with Dr. Caballero and her Arizodal than some disagreeing fan. See, so move on to the next section here, which is going to be the humor of the episode. This episode, had a lot of humor based on it, and obviously a lot of references to fanon and fandoms in general, as well as conventions, obviously, which is nice timing with this being just around the time Comic-Con happened the previous week.
Okay, obviously the biggest one, and this was already mentioned in the chat room, but the body pillows has to be. I couldn't believe that. I
seriously,
yes,
and also just like not just that they were there, but they actually referenced the Rainbow Dash, kind of point to him like, "What is that?" And Quibble just kind of rolls his eyes, like, I can't believe they snuck that into the episode. I mean, that's like Animaniacs level of like hiding kind of more mature things into.
It's like hiding it in plain sight. Yeah, it's like getting it right past the radar. Not only did they actually have the body pillows, but they also had one of them showing Daring Do tied up.
Yeah, that's the one that Rainbow Dash is pointing to. I'm like, oh my god! Just to make it even worse, not only was it a body pillow of Daring Do, but she was tied up with rope in it. I'm just like, I seriously saw that and could not believe that was like actually in the episode. And of course, later one of the hench ponies, when it goes and actually is shown to have like bought one of them, not the one that she was tied up, but just like another generic Daring Do body pillow, to which Dr. Caballero makes him throw it away.
I'm just saying, I'm just like looking at this one comment is like, children are going to be confused and disappointed as to the reasons why they can't have any Daring Do pillows like the ones they just saw on the show. Imagine the surprise of curious parents when they find out what kind of pillows those actually are.
Come on, Hasbro. Got to start selling those for the kids. can do it.
Uh,
I also want to say, just around the time, the scene where Rainbow Dash and Quibble were starting to argue with that freaking like concession pony in the stand that was just having nothing of the whole situation until the end, where they start arguing. She just has this look on her face like she's about to just go grab some popcorn from behind her and just enjoy watching this fandom argument taking place in front of her. The most entertainment she's going to get all day.
and the fact is that she kind of had like a sort of a scowl on her face like the whole time up until that fight.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Rainbow packing while Twilight was reading Daring Do out loud.
Can I just say also, I think up on there, probably one of my favorite things of humor and animation in the episode is freaking Derpy's costume, Owie's Odal costume. In there, if someone wants to link a picture of that in the chat, it's just, it's so perfect. I mean, I thought her Twilight costume from last season was the best, but this one takes the cake in terms of costume design. I've watched this episode probably 3 to 4 times now, and every time that pops up, I have to pause and just laugh, just laugh uncontrollably at it.
Stay.
And yeah, of course, that caught me off guard. The credit sequence, just because I'm thinking in my head as we get to the close, like I wonder if we're gonna have the MLP theme going in the credits, or if we're gonna have some more custom score again over the credits. And it's just like, no, let's just throw both of those out the window, and we just have Patton Oswalt continuing to talk even after the episode fades out and the credits come back up. He just nonstop continues to talk right up to the end. That just made me laugh so hard. I was not expecting that, and it worked out so perfectly with his little ad-libbed bit of monologue at the end there. Oh yeah, she was Dr. Caballero, yeah.
That's it. Then of course
there was
Go
Derby.
ahead. Yeah.
There was Derby in the episode. I was so focused on the car or the bad cardboard head, I didn't notice that was Derby's body on it.
Yep. Only she could make a cosplay that is that amazing. Those freaking eyebrows just pasted on top, with it just being a box for a head it's that's just so perfect.
Like, she failed so hard that she somehow managed to come right back around and succeed.
No, Draconis Media, that is someone selling stolen artwork at the convention, because those are definitely the designs that Fluttershy had in her cottage during the Halloween episode last season. So someone must have stolen those off her for DeviantArt, trying to sell them or just use them at their booth. Because those are literally the same exact designs, just blown up. I still find it hilarious that they have anime ponies in the show, though. It's great.
Of course, we also have Rainbow's expressions throughout the episode. Like, for example, when she and Quibble was doing that sort of thing with the sticking the head through the cardboard cutout of Daring and Owie's Odal, just Rainbow's just sort of derp face that she was making while she was sticking her head through the Owie's Odal cutout. And then, of course, the impossibly smug expression that she finally has when she finally proves to Quibble that Daring Do is real and that she knows her.
I can't tell if it's so out of context. It just looks like she's plastered, just like completely drunk in that shot with that face. I'm pretty sure she made those. You want me to sign what? Oh my god. Yeah, like I mentioned before, I just loved how Quibble was constantly just kind of getting on Dr. Caballero as if he was some sort of bad actor cosplayer throughout. Just like saying, "Oh, this guy's accent, it's all over the place." Or when Dr. Cabaleron says, "I'm the mastermind here," and under his breath, Quibble's just like, "Debatable." It's just, I guess, like, I don't know. I just found that all very, very humorous. How he's doing this to the real Cabaleron.
Just the fact that he was even saying to Cabaleron's face is just like, okay.
Of course, also at that point, then he said, he's saying into his face, my mic issues again. Of course, he's saying it into his face because he.
Eventually, J.E. will be able to finish his sentence. You keep getting to the same exact point, and it cuts off.
Yeah. I was saying when he said debatable, at that point he thought that Calron was an adventure experience actor.
Yep. Oh my god, I can't get over that. That might be like instantly win best face of the entire series. It was so outrageous. So smug.
It's
like, I know her.
Rainbow Dash has always had the best faces in like the entire franchise. I mean, she's always has to have one crazy face per season.
This episode she had 2.
And even like just continuing on Quibble, even after, like I said, after he knows like this is all real, he's still getting on, like getting on Daring Do when they like, do you ever not escape out of the top of the temple, or later when she has the plan where she throws the stone to kind of distract them and make the wall fall. And I was like, that's not very original. It's been done before. Still like saying these things like this is a fictional thing and being very critical of what Daring Do is doing.
Right, like as they're escaping, Quibble's like, don't go over. I'm like, go around, don't go over. And then like Rainbow Dash and Daring are like, did he say go over? Yeah. And then they fly over.
Kind of like a little another little subtle jump the shark reference there as well. Directly back to the Fonzie episode of Happy Days episode.
It's like you kind of have to wonder. I mean, did she really think that Quibble actually said go over, or was she just looking for an excuse to get revenge on a guy who'd been like eating on her nerves like the entire day?
Oh my god, that image that Draconius Media posted totally cannot be viewed out of context. That's like that reminds me of another part of the episode where, you know, when Daring Do finally enters the episode at the end there, and she's like, I told you to alert me of any problem, not go out on an adventure of your own.
Got on this one here. Oh. That's terrible.
Quibbles had better.
Also, there was the like the entire lobby, the lobby of the hotel the Rainbow Dash was staying resembles the one from the movie.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, kind of go on to the to animation here. We've already kind of gone through most of the points I want to in the animation, but I do want to, a few things with here. First off, just all of the backgrounds for the con scenes were just great. There's so many like hidden stuff and nods to fandoms and what normally is at these like little merch areas of the of cons. Like we already saw like the Daring Do pillows and Fluttershy's kind of artwork stolen at one of the booths there, and just all of the background and characters on there. I looking through the background and all the characters at the con, with the exception of like Derpy, none of those characters there were really reused. Character. It wasn't like we see Lyra. Oh, there's Lyra. There's Bon. There's Colgate or whatever. They were all kind of custom characters, and a lot of them were in costumes or Daring Do cosplays of varying degrees of effort put into them or talent behind them for it, and just all of those scenes there at as they go through each of these different booths and all the ponies were really well put together, and obviously a lot of work went into making these custom backgrounds and characters for the episode.
See, I do like how Quibble even actually had fake wings on him when we first saw him.
Yep. He and Dash definitely had some of the most show accurate cosplays of Daring Do there, and they even go into detailed discussion of all the work they put into getting them just right.
In fact, it's actually kind of funny because with Rainbow Dash, all she needs to do, she just needs to dye her mane and her coat, and
yeah,
she'd be like a literal spitting image.
She has the easiest job as cosplaying Daring Do. No doubts there.
About the only thing that I could really imagine would be even funnier would be if they just went meta and she's like, she goes up to Daring. She's like, okay, I'll disguise myself as you, but then she breaks the literal fourth wall and pulls up like the Adobe Flash and goes to like the palette swap thing and like changes her colors to Daring's. Just getting way too Pinkie Pie into that though.
I don't know. Those two characters circled there. I mean, are you trying to say that they're the same, or I noticed quite a few differences in their design. I mean, the hair is slightly similar, but the tail's different. The main part of it's different. One of them's a Pegasus, different color. I mean, there's not really much of a similarity between them, other than that they just obviously use the standard MLP base model. Body, I should say. And like I said, all these characters here are not like characters we've really seen before. And there's very few characters in the scene that we've seen before in the series. Like going back to season 1 and season 2, where it would always be the same ponies in the background. No, I don't think they were color swapped. Like I said, their manes are different. The tails are different. They have different decorations. I mean, the only real similarity again is just the body, but most ponies have the same body. I mean, really, the only other thing is they're facing the same direction in the same in the same pose, but it's hard to tell if that's just because of the way it's screenshotted. Yeah, and of course we kind of talk about the new kind of mythical monster. I always like it when they have when they always put these mythical monsters in the show. It's been a little bit since we've gotten one, but it was nice getting another new one with it kind of having this like overgrown alligator design to it.
Not only that, but the mythical creature that they've actually make a reference to is indeed an actual mythological being, because and not just the creature itself, but the amulet of Colhulcan and the seven-sided chest of Chico Mostok are allusions to creation myths of Aztec mythology.
I did not know that.
Yes,
that's really cool. I love that amount of kind of research and effort put into like little pointless things of the episode like that. And that's one of the things I've always liked about the series is how much they do draw on mythology and stuff for a lot of like the characters or one-shot characters that they have, like we've seen in the past.
And not just the Cipatli, however the hell that's pronounced, but Alizodal itself. She also fended off the spirit form of another Aztec mythological creature, and there are even in Daring Don't itself, there are also several other references to Aztec mythology itself. So, like you said, I mean, this show does do its research. So,
I mean, that's definitely something I've always just liked about it. Yeah, I have to agree with Everlasting Joy too. I was really expecting Aoi Zodal to make an appearance, and I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they went kind of a new route. They had Dr. Cabaleron make his second appearance of the series, but then they had a new mythical creature in the temple. It wasn't just Aoi Zodal suddenly shows up, halfway through. So I did like it that they didn't kind of include him on that. How long until I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't already, but really how long until that Daring Do pillow is an actual real pillow?
Actually, as far as I'm aware, I believe that there are indeed body pillows of Daring Do, as well as the main six and many other background ponies.
I know. I mean, obviously, I know that those exist. I mean, that's the whole reason they're in the show, is because they're referencing fandoms creating those kind of pillows, especially in this fandom. I'm just more saying that exact pillow with that same design of Daring Do tied up.
Is that one? Okay,
is a real one.
I don't know.
It's gonna happen. I'm just wondering how much longer it's gonna be till I see one of those actually in real life.
This fandom is probably already out there somewhere on DeviantArt. I have no idea.
It's been a couple of days. I'm surprised. Maybe it exists, and I guess I haven't been looking hard enough, or at all. Aliens.
Aliens.
with Rainbow Dash doing that pose. I'm not saying it's aliens, but aliens. Yeah, it was nice seeing some action again, and a little bit of action in this episode with the show. Always like action scenes and the set pieces they create. I like how Quibble references that, this is such a typical Daring Do story. All these things that serve no purpose but to take us from one set piece to another set piece, and again playing with the kind of like these action tropes. Also, another really small bit that I noticed that I just remembered is the bridge itself. And when they're starting to cross, when they happen upon the bridge and you see the wide shot of the bridge, it isn't just statically staying there. You can see it kind of swaying in a very three-dimensional kind of way, very slowly. I'm not sure if it was animated like that or if it was a 3D model, but either way, it looked really good, and I liked the subtle sway it had in the animation. It looked good, and it gave the bridge a little bit more of a threatening feel than if it was just kind of sitting there static.
I mean, I know we've already covered humor, but can I just also mention that I kind of laughed at the fact that Quibble also just called that what was going to happen. He's like, "Oh, sure, I'm probably just going to step down and like break through the slats." And sure enough, just as soon as he says it, that's what happens.
Yep. All that very meta humor, and also is how he kind of fanboys over Rainbow Dash after that, after she saves him in that scene.
Shipping fuel ahoy!
Oh, yeah. It's a natural part of any fandom. Yeah, I mean, especially like EJ's talking about here with the visuals, and just we go to these new this new comics, Comic-Con setting, or this new like this Aztec temple setting, and so many different things that are maybe not being on the screen for that long, but have all these different backgrounds and locations have a lot of thought and work put into in the backgrounds, and the designs, like the door design that Draconian's Media has posted there. And you really got to stop and appreciate the work that goes into these just little things that may not be on the screen for that long. I don't know if anyone else caught it. Did they ever mention where the con was? Like the convention itself?
Implied that the convention was in Griffinstone, but
the convention wasn't in Griffinstone. Twilight couldn't go to the Convention Stone because she had the Friendship Summit in Griffinstone. She couldn't go to the convention because she had the Friendship Summit that she had to go to in Griffinstone. So
actually, they didn't actually state where the convention was at.
I'm surprised with the season being all about exploring Equestria that they didn't get some sort of drop there. It would make sense that it would be in Manhattan, but we never got an establishing shot of a location or anything. It was never mentioned. I guess I wasn't sure if I missed it, but I guess not. I think Manhattan would be the logical place.
Well, considering that it was actually close enough to like the jungle that they had to go through that temple to get that to get that treasure, I don't know if they would even have it in Manhattan or if it was probably just somewhere down south of somewhere. But then again, I don't know.
Actually, it wasn't that close because Rainbow Dash even kind of references that, in terms of her proof towards Quibble, when she I forget the exact line, but she says something like how long it took them to get to this setting as proof that this is real.
And as per usual, as per tradition, I didn't rewatch the episode, so I wouldn't know.
No surprise there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not too far away from any civilizations because at the end of the episode, they're Rainbow and Quibble to their own. So Rainbow and Quibble have to go all the way back to the convention by themselves.
It would have been awesome if it was Baltimore, but it would also be disappointing if it was Baltimore and the way and they didn't show it at all in the show. So. Okay, yeah, but definitely was Manhattan then by the map there that was posted. So that's very, very clearly, which makes sense, of course, like we said. But yeah, there was a line, I forget the exact, you can look it up in the transcript, but where Rainbow Dash does kind of acknowledge how the trip time to get to where they are is kind of proof that it isn't some adventurecation. So anything else for the animation or humor that we may have missed from anyone? Boop, boo, doo, boop, boop.
Say no. I'm just looking this thing up here. I'm just gonna make this thing here since I can't pronounce this, but that crocodile fish toad hybrid thing, the Cipatley, I'm gonna learn how to pronounce that sometime. But that even though the actual size has been greatly stoned down for storytelling purposes, the original deal was actually the fact in the original mythology, its body was so huge that the Aztec gods basically created the whole earth from its body after slaying it. And the seven-sided chest of Chico Mostok, utilizing the amulet of Colhuacan. Chico Mostok is the mythical origin of the Aztecs and other Mesoamerican societies, and included a 7K season with Colhuacan being the first settlement from this particular region. Also, later, EJ.
Let's see. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next. No songs, so we get to the click here, the score and backing music. So obviously, this the score in this episode, since it's a Daring Do episode, has a lot of score from previous Daring Do, the previous two Daring Do episodes, and all those kind of themes and motifs are used, as well as some new score and some other score for the con section as well. So we can get into here, and we'll start with the first track. We kind of start off right away in the cold open in the book setting, as Twilight is reading this book to Rainbow Dash. So right away we start with the action theme and Daring Do's motif here. A little bit of Daring Do's motif in the back there. This is another theme that has been used in Daring Do episodes here. And of course, that stops as Twilight stops reading. So that's going to be the beginning of the episode there. So we got a few already right away, a few motifs that are going in. Now this next one is pretty. I think it's pretty cool. This is when we first arrive at the convention, and Rainbow Dash is kind of exploring the show floor there. We get this little track here, which is actually the Daring Do's main motif, but played in a different instrumentation and a little bit more upbeat. So it's her theme, but instead of like the really epic horn orchestration that normally it involves in, because when she appears on the screen and very heroic, here it's a lot more subdued and just kind of some nice backing music as Dash explores the con floor here. So yeah, that there is actually the Daring Do motif, but just played in a different way. Let me just get some more of the normal exploring kind of backing motifs here from the series. Eventually we should run into Quibble here. And so you can hear when she kind of runs into Quibble there, the Daring Do motif comes back, and it gets a little bit more of the normal nature of it, where we bring in the choir at the end before it ends. So the next one we get is the convention, like the little montage that they have. So the backing track for the montage of Rainbow Dash and Quibble Pants exploring the con floor. So these montage tracks are always a lot of fun to listen to. So here's this one, which is a new piece of score for the series here. It's a little different than the rest of the episode there, but montage music's always some of the best of the series, since it allows it to kind of take the center stage there. From there, the episode shifts a little bit more into the traditional style of Daring Do music, and we get there right away in the track An Emergency, as Rainbow Dash goes and confronts Daring Do, aka Yearling, about the problem she's having with this fan that doesn't like her new works. So we start off right away with this kind of like a little more tense dialogue backing track here before we get into some more traditional, like, epic, adventurous score as Daring Do talks about what the mission she's actually on right now to Rainbow Dash.
Tell me, what's going on? Is it Capricorn? Did you see him? What? No. But there is a pony downstairs. Thinks everything you were at the horse trilogy is totally unrealistic and terrible. Do you happen to a fan that's all totally awesome? I've got bigger problems on my hooks than dissatisfied fan ponies.
Now here she starts to explain her mission, or what she's doing. Starts picking up the tempo a little bit here. This is all newer score here for this episode. So then the next thing we get to is when Dr. Caballera makes his first appearance in the episode, and for him we get the reprise of his motif from the previous Daring Do episode in season 4, where he made his first appearance. And so this is Dr. Caballera's theme here. Has a very Arabian Nights kind of feel to it. And then, after kind of Quibble Pants and Rainbow Dash kind of part ways and then run into each other again after they have their disagreements, we get a little motif for him here, as he's talking and kind of taunting Rainbow Dash about her opinions and how he's right and everything. Piano theme here. So now we can kind of fast forward here to some of the later tracks, and we get now into the more action tracks as we get into the actual real scenes away from the con here in the jungle. So we get a lot more of the traditional Daring Do themes and action themes from the series here, starting off when they're at the rope bridge. That right there is one of the kind of like the action themes, motifs that's been used quite a few times throughout the series. One of the last times I remember being used was during the Tatooine battle in Season 4. Let's see. So now we get into the final few tracks here. Here's when they meet the monster, and Quibblepants realizes that kind of this is all real, and is eventually saved by Daring Do in the end, where we'll hear her heroic main motif as she enters the scene, as she always does. So now we kind of get to the conclusion, action conclusion, as they escape from the temple here in the temple top, in this temple top escape track. And as they escape here, you get Daring Do's theme there. Oops, where is it? And that means we get to the final track of the episode here, as they're both getting, to their resolutions, and Quibble is kind of explaining, how he now understands their different opinions and that they can still be friends for it. This one starts out with a little bit more of that Daring Do the lighter Daring Do theme, and then we get to another theme which I recognized, and I couldn't figure out what it was. It took me a while to find it. It was first and last used in the Season 5 episode Made in Manhattan during when oh gosh, I can't forget her name. Gosh, the character in Made in Manhattan. I'm so horrible with names, even characters. I should know their name off the top of my head.
Suri or Coco?
Thank you, Coco. Yeah, Coco Polymer. When she's kind of giving the history of the Midsummer Theater Revival, it's used as the backing track for that originally, and then was also used at the end of that episode for that episode's resolution. And so that theme is brought back here in this final track of this episode. So it's like one of the newer kind of lesson story motifs here. here's that motif here. Oh no, and here's Daring Do's motif here. Here's that motif from that previous episode. And then we kind of end with the grandiose ending before it fades out and Quibble continues talking. Which I still love that ending. So that's the score for the episode. So much like Dragon's Quest, we get a lot more of the action-oriented ones. And since this is an episode with a returning character, we get a lot of those reused motifs, those reappearing motifs from the previous Daring Do episodes, and her main motif and her action motifs that we've heard in the previous two, as well as some new tracks with new montage music and some of the other newer action-oriented tracks that are in the episode. So that's all the score for the episode. Great score, some great stuff to come back to with the of course being an action-oriented episode for the second half, which they always have some of the best score to back some of those action scenes. So moving on. What is we can discuss the theme and the moral. What is everyone's opinion on the theme and the moral of the episode?
The moral is don't be a There are made of variations as we see.
Like I mentioned earlier, the I really do like the moral and kind of the overall theme of this being just a very one that people in fandoms should take to heart, and just people in general, just even outside, in just real life can take to heart in terms of how you will have differing opinions with people, and it's okay to have differing opinions as long as you understand your opinion and can give reasons why you have your opinion, and can understand, and more importantly, understand other people's opinions. And, you might not agree with them, but it's very important to understand them and understand the differences and maybe why they agree with what they do, why they think what they do. And that's something that Quibble is able to do at the end, where he understands why he only liked the first three and why Rainbow Dash continues to like all these all the later novels, because she really likes the action scenes more, while he likes more of the puzzle scenes that weren't as prevalent in the later ones. So he's able to figure that out and understand it, and in the end, get past their differences and still be able to bond over something that they do still have in common, even with those differences, and still be friends with each other as well. And I just think that's a really relatable and just great moral to have for the episode. And they could have gone a lot of ways with the moral and with this episode, and I'm glad they went the way they did, rather than just making the episode about shaming Quibble for being wrong or something like that.
So basically, in short, do I really need to say it?
Let's say it again for good measure.
Yep. Don't have a closed mind. Don't hate on others. No. Don't be a dick!
Be a dick!
Yeah, and Tim, that's kind of, it's also him, like I said, understanding his opinions more. Because before he was just like, I don't like the first few books. Everything. I don't like anything after the first few books. Everything after doesn't exist. And by the end of the episode, he's able to form his actual opinions on why he feels the way he does and why Rainbow Dash feels the way she does, and to understand a lot more at the end there.
Yeah, because I believe Quibble even specifically mentions, "Hey, I still don't like the later books, but at least now I can explain why I don't like the other."
And of course, Rainbow Dash is like, "Oh!" Even after all that, but yeah, exactly. And he's able to say, "Well, wait a second, before you call me crazy again, Rainbow Dash. It's because I really like the puzzles, and that's the one thing I really liked about Daring Do was the puzzles and like the mind games and stuff. And the later books didn't have that after the first three." While you're more prone to action and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I mean, it was just really, really well done in terms of the outcome to the story and the outcome for those two characters. Yeah, and just the contrary to him, he thinks Rainbow is awesome, and that she's even if he doesn't like the action-oriented nature of the newer Daring Do books, he still thinks Rainbow is an awesome person and shippity ship ship.
Yeah, at least he did come to really think that she was indeed, awesome in her own right.
That's a good question. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I was just thinking, I just had the mental image of like the Rainbow Dash fan club that's in Ponyville, that Scootaloo heads. Mm-hmm. Like the next time that they meet, that Cribble Shoes could probably be seen like somewhere in the background.
Oh God. Oh please, make that happen.
That would be funny to see.
Zerna raises a good question about whether that is actually Quibble's coat color. I think it is. I think it would have washed off after all the water they were in. If it wasn't.
I would be surprised if that was indeed at Quibble's actual coat color.
Oh yeah, that's one other thing about the rock betting I just realized with Quibble complaining about how things are unrealistic. Does that call into question? Does when Daring Do writes the books as A.K. Yearling, does she fudge the details to make it not as obvious that the stories really happened?
Yeah, and that's another kind of a good point to make as well. With even though they're based on true facts, it doesn't just because the books are. And counter to Rainbow Dash's argument. Rainbow Dash's argument is, Quibble, you're wrong because everything in the books actually, there's no way you can dislike the books because the books actually happened, and I know for a fact, that whatever, this is real. But just because all the situations Daring Do had were real and maybe not overblown, doesn't necessarily make Daring Do a good writer. The books might still critically not be that good in Quibble's eyes, even if everything in them happened. Because just because that events actually happened doesn't mean that she's able to articulate that well in writing. So the writing could have suffered afterwards as well, which is another.
Not only that, but whenever people tell stories, that people do have a tendency to exaggerate. So she might be doing that in the book. So.
No phone, don't fall. Okay. So final. Any favorite parts and any concerns for the episode?
Favorite parts. I don't really have a favorite part, to be honest. I guess Quibble is just being overall snarky. Is probably a good point. The body pillows, just the fact that they managed to get away with that wholesale.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. First off, like I've been talking about the whole moral and kind of the resolution for the episode. I really liked. I think that was definitely its strong point. But then also its humor and just its playing with tropes and it's all the references to cons and fandoms and stuff that they snuck in, especially at the beginning with the body pillows and Derpy's fucking costume. The humor really shined both in the writing itself and also in the storyboarding and visuals. Of it. Gosh, whoever designed Derpy in that costume, you get an award because that was that was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of credit because I mean, you give a lot of credit to the writing team, but I have to give a lot of credit to the storyboarders of the episode, layout people, and animators, and all the other ones that probably snuck in most of those con references, the visual con references that we're all talking about. So a lot of props to them too for really giving that con an actual a real feel to it. And yeah, I don't have any concerns. This was a great episode with a great moral and very relatable probably to a lot of people in this fandom and other fandoms as well. So, final comments, final thoughts, concluding thoughts, overall feelings?
Still one of the best episodes, I think, of season 6 thus far. Easily a contender for a favorite episode for this season.
Yeah, Josh Haber, I've always really enjoyed his episodes, and he's a great writer. But Mike Vogel's really come off as a writer in this season and really just knocked it out of the park with 3 really great episodes, from the musical episode to Saddle Row Review, not Saddle Row Review. So many S episodes.
Saddle Row Review. I have no idea. Yeah.
No, because that was the rarity episode.
Yeah.
The last Spice Up Your Life. Like I said, there's all these S's, and I keep getting confused with the S's. With Spice Up Your Life before the hiatus, and now this episode, he's really, obviously he's been involved with it from the show from day one, and so he really gets the characters and is really able to write for him. But he is a great, I think he's a great writer, and he's really shown that these past 3 episodes as well. So I'm glad he's kind of gone over to the creative side of things, because he's been able to bring that knowledge that he has from being there since the beginning and really deliver some really well written episodes.
I have to agree with Everlasting Joy's earlier sentiment that Mike Vogel is probably becoming one of my favorite show writers, specifically because of that. Yeah,
he's definitely filled the shoes, I think, of Amy Keating Rogers, especially with that musical episode and stuff. So, he's great that he's writing, because I hope he continues to as well. Well, with that, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Equine Episode Examination. Hopefully, streaming here on YouTube has proven to be successful for all of you watching. It looks like it's been okay on my end, so it'll definitely help us post the episodes quicker, since YouTube will automatically start processing this as soon as the stream is done. And you can even go back and, we have the DVR setting on the stream, so you can actually go back. One thing I will say is if you are getting buffers because of your connection, it might not start you off live, so you might be getting pushed behind a little bit and actually watching some of the recorded DVR content, and you actually have to push the live button on the player to return to live. So if it seems like you're getting a little behind on the stream and what everyone else is talking about, you might have to go into the player and push the live button on it to return to live, because you might have buffered yourself a little ways back for it. But you can even go back at any time and rewatch it. It's pretty cool. So we're going to hopefully be using this going forward for Triple E. It'll allow us to post the episodes to YouTube right away. As I said, we already have last week's episode and Magical Mystery Cure on YouTube. So you can check that on our CinemaQuestria YouTube, youtube.com/CinemaQuestria, or on our site. If you go up to the nav bar up top and go to the Shows tab and go to Equine Episode Examination, you can go to the archives, where we've removed all the old Zipcast ones since they don't exist anymore. But we have all the episodes listed there, and as we upload them to YouTube, they'll also be embedded there more easily defined. If you don't want to go on YouTube and go through the playlists there. So if you ever miss an episode and want to catch it, hopefully going forward we'll have them available for you right away for Triple E. And we're looking into getting our CQ Riff stuff up there as well. Although it's probably, just by the nature of YouTube, it's probably for those things going to be audio only. So you'll have to, if you miss the CQ Riffs, you'll have to find the video yourself, and it'll just be us talking. So you'll have to sync it up, just because you know how YouTube is with that. So going forward, we're still working that out, but we'll start getting some of the CQ Riff stuff up there as well. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Next week we'll be back with more new episodes. So this weekend premiering we have I forget it. It's something with a pony and a cart, but I forget the actual order of the words. I don't have my calendar up here.
For the ponies?
Put the cart before the ponies. Yes. So that's this week's new episode. So join us for our live chat of that. This weekend at 11:30 a.m. And we'll be talking about that next week here at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Triple E. So make sure to join us for that next week. So that's all coming up then. So we'll see you then.